the first time we go to the Sugar Bowl in a long time, we played Notre Dame. That's like, I don't even think ranked at that point. Florida fans are like, why are we playing these guys? And we just got boat raced because of the way we handled, Bourbon Street that week. And then, we figured out, we come back there in 93 and beat the hell out of West Virginia. I think we scored 41 unanswered after they scored first. And, the first time we go to the SEC championship game, we lose. And then after that, Florida runs off a string of like 4 or 5 wins there. So you kind of figure that out. The loss in the national championship game caused some retooling, including, ultimately coming back with a shotgun the next year in the national championship game, and you find a way to win. So I think that's part of the natural growth process, right? You got to fail sometimes to move forward, and I thought that was what...
Another Dooley Noted podcast comes to you from the Meldon Law Studios at the Hacienda. Okay, welcome in to another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging, coming to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studios here at the Dooley Dome. Good show for you today. Chris Doering is going to join us. We'll talk to him about, obviously, the series that they've done on the first-year coaches, what his thoughts are on Summerall, all that kind of stuff. And, that's one thing I want to talk to him about is whether the potential is there for this to be in that pantheon of great Florida receiving cores. Because to me, the number one's always going to be Ike Riddell and Kwesi. But when you go back a year earlier, Ike Riddell, Kwesi, Doering, that was pretty good. The Jack Jackson, and Doering, and I mean, there's just a lot of great receiving cores. But obviously, this has a chance to be that kind. Now you got to get guys to get him the ball, and Danny Werfel, was different. Kyle Trask was different. He had a great core too, and that may be the number 2 group. But anyway, we'll talk about that with Chris. Coach Spurr will be on Monday, as always he is, on Meldon Mondays. And Chris Lowe will join us on next Thursday. Of course, Chris Lowe from On3 and does a great job. To me, the source to go to for SEC football. So we'll talk to him about a lot of different things, and we look forward to that. All right, it is time for us to start the show with the Money Metals Starting 5. MoneyMetals.com is your home for gold and silver purchases, one of the largest distributors in all the United States. 2 Gator grads are running it, and you can reach them at 1-800-800-1865 or at moneymetals.com. Okay, number 1 on our Money Metals Starting 5, and that is that not a whole lot of news is coming out of camp, which is good because, you want that to be the case. You want everybody to stay healthy and nobody have heat problems and everything like that. Gosh, I played golf yesterday. You talk about heat problems. I got 11 holes in, though. And actually, it wasn't as bad as it normally is. Anyway, it was really bad golf again because I'm bad. The main thing to take out of where we are right now is that this competition at quarterback is a sincere competition. I have no doubt about that. I love what Summerall said this week about he wants both guys to want to win the job. He doesn't want a guy that's just average, and he wants them both to be really good. And you see this with all over the country, whether it's different colleges or different NFL teams, where, one guy, there's a competition, and like, for example, the competition that J.J. McCarthy just lost to Kyler Murray with the Vikings. So, but anyway, that situation is a key. And I was on a show last week, or actually it was earlier this week. Actually, it was yesterday, Pat. Okay, this is what happens when you get old. But I was on this show and I was talking about, they were asking me what the biggest concern is, and I still went to the offensive line. The offensive line is going to have to show me. The secondary, I think, is going to be just fine. I know that a lot of people say those are the 2 issues. But to me, it's offensive line and quarterback. Because for all that we think Aaron Philo could be, for all that we think Tramel Jones can be, we got to see it with our own eyes. I mean, before they get out there and do something. And do something great, or maybe they're just distributors. Maybe they're the Torian Greens. I always joke. In fact, I remember writing this was my lead to one of the 8 stories I think I wrote the night Florida beat Ohio State for the Natty, and I wrote that in '06, technically '07, but my lead was that I finally figured it out. Chris Leak was touring green, because that's the thing. That this is how Florida was winning championships, with a guy who is really good at getting the ball where it needs to go, and that's what they need. They don't need Tebow. I mean, I love Tebow at his peak. They don't need Tebow. They don't need John Reeves. To be honest, they don't even need Kyle Trask. They need a Chris Lee. They need a guy who can throw the ball accurately and get it to the right guys. You've got a lot of talent here. Get it to the right guys. And we'll see how that goes. Yesterday, Todd Golden makes an appearance out there, and that was really cool. I loved his. I mean, I've heard a lot of it before, but it is something that I think a lot of coaches at the University of Florida are kind of feeding off of, and that is what Todd Golden said, that I want guys who want to be at the University of Florida. I want guys who want to be successful here. I don't want guys who just want to be successful and they may be leaving. I want guys who want to be here. That's exactly what the message he was trying to get through to the football team. And he was telling them, look, if you guys want to be here and you want to do that and you want to be successful for the Gators, you'll have a great season. It's pretty simple. I agree with that philosophy. Doesn't always work out. Sometimes you got guys who want to be here, just don't get it done. And there was also the big story about uniforms. And again, sometimes I never know what to believe because of Twitter. And I don't know if it's all true or some's true and everything. Apparently they're going to wear all blues, including a blue helmet this year, first time ever. And all whites for a home game and all that. All this stuff, we talked about that earlier. My reaction when I mean, I'm a big believer in one thing, and that is you pull on your blue jersey and your orange helmet and your white pants, and you go win a game in a swamp. That's what you do. Big games should be not about alternate jerseys. They should be about go win the game in the uniform you should be wearing. That's my opinion. But my other opinion is I don't care what they're wearing. And again, the night they wore the Gator jerseys and helmets and everything, it was ugly. It was terrible. But that's not why they lost that game. They lost by 2, I believe it was, or 1 to Texas A&M that night. Anyway, I don't care what you're wearing. The bottom line is it doesn't matter what you're wearing. It matters to the players, and it's a recruiting thing and blah, 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 and all that. Okay, fine. Maybe you should win some games before you get to decide what kind of unis you want to wear. That's just my takeaway on it. I'm not a big alternate uniform guy, and when they wear them in the NFL, usually I'm, like puking up my bologna sandwich. So anyway, so that's where we are with football right now. Number 2, let us get to that on our Money Metals starting 5. And our number 2 thing will be that the basketball schedule is now set for Florida. It is, again, not a very home-friendly schedule in the non-conference, but that is the Todd Golden way. I agree with his philosophy. His philosophy is, and he's done the analytics. He knows the more games you don't play at home, the better your net ranking is going to be. The better all your metrics are going to be. Go play in Jacksonville where you're going to have a Gator crowd. Great. You go play in Jacksonville, that's great. That counts as a neutral site game. You go and play in Vegas, it's still a neutral site game, but you play in Jacksonville twice now this year coming up, and they'll play once in Tampa, that game against Miami. And of course, Jay Lucas just got an extension, which he deserves. He's done a great job there, former Gator player. Florida added Grand Canyon, which right away you kind of go, who cares? No, Grand Canyon's, I think they've been in the tournament like 3 straight years or something. Bryce Drew's their coach and is doing a great job. Antelopes. So that's going to be a tough game. But again, they got to come across country and play it in Jacksonville. But anyway, home non-cons, not a lot to. I mean, obviously the Duke game is maybe the biggest game that's ever been played here, and I can make an argument that Ohio State was as big, maybe even bigger. I don't know. You can make that argument. Um, back in '07 because they ended up playing for the Natty. But that's why you look back on it and it feels like it was bigger. At the time, they were both ranked, but they were both in the top five, I think. I think it was 3 versus 5. This could be very easily be 1 versus 2. So I think it's a big deal, and it's the first time Duke's been here since the '30s, and we all know that. So that's a huge game. Everything else is either neutral site or on the road or at FSU. I think FSU will be better this year too. And if you haven't read Chris Harry's deep dive into the schedule, it's really good. And in fact, I sent him an email yesterday at floridagators.com, and I said, Chris, this is a lot of work, man. I appreciate guys who work their butts off to get something really well done, and it's really good. It is a tough schedule. Now, I told him, I said, man, the SEC seems like it's going to be brutal. He said, I don't think it's going to be as hard as it was last year. Last year, it's interesting because last year, I think you had all these elite freshmen. This year, it's more transfers and, you get guys from like Robert Morris and things like that. They'll probably be pretty good, but you don't know for sure. So we'll wait and see about whether the SEC is as good as it was last year. Of course, it has become the best conference in the country, and nobody can really argue. They can argue it in football and certainly win the argument right now in the Big Ten, but I don't think anybody else can argue what the SEC's been able to do in basketball. So it'll be fun. We are down for season tickets. We've got our deposit in. I've been told that there is the increase is almost double in the season tickets for people. So we're gonna have to make a decision. You put down a deposit, so we've got 100 on for each of us, so $200 down. And I hate to forfeit that, but I mean, I got to see where we can get our seats and if they're going to be reasonable. But hey, I really want to go. I want to go to a bunch of games this year. All right, that is number 2 on our Money Metals starting 5. Let's get to number 3 on our Money Metals starting 5. And of course, we appreciate our friends at Money Metals, where you can get that silver coin with a Gator on it, and it's pretty sweet. I can tell you that much, and I'll show you mine again sometime. All right, and number 3, this is just a fascinating story to me. It looks like they're going to finalize a deal for the Bears to move to Hammond, Indiana, and they're going to be called the Indiana Bears. At least that's what I'm hearing. That's what the story is. It's going out there. I don't know if that's true or not, but it sounds like it's true. It sounds like it's going to happen. Apparently, the city of Hammond is offering all these incentives, and that's what it's all about. What can you do for me? But I have enjoyed some of the stuff on Twitter, people having fun with the name. Instead of being called the Chicago Bears, are they going to be called the Hammond Bears? And other people had the Hammond Hamsters, which I think could be a good nickname. But this was the all-timer, the Hammond Eggs. That's good. I like that. You guys on Twitter are making me laugh. And that's the goal. It should be the goal of Twitter. Get out information that is true and make people laugh. That should be it. Not just all the crap that's up there. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's going to be an interesting thing. And again, for a lot of Bears fans, some of them are going to say, well, I'm done. But I saw this other thing on Twitter. I wanted to mention this too about you can be a fan of the team if you went to school there, and you're an alum or something else. And then somebody said, well, if you own a shirt of that favorite team, whatever it is, whether you're a fan or not, it doesn't matter. If you decide you're not a fan, like I did with the Lakers, I'm not a Lakers fan anymore. I used to be a huge Lakers fan. I've stayed with the Braves the whole time. I want to say that. But anyway, let's move along to number 4 on our Money Medal starting 5. And that is, Steve and Christine Wendig are big softball people, and of course from Boss Hart Realty, and we appreciate them for being on this. But this was interesting. They are Tim Walton did a video about what they're offering for their Diamond Club now, to join that, and then they're going to allow you to have all kinds of access. They're going to allow you to watch practices and see the everything behind it. And this is something that I think is going to be a trend going forward. And I'm not saying other teams aren't already doing it. I don't know if they are or not. But I think a lot of people are going to say, hey, look, you want to get your boosters behind you and you want to get the NIL money up, you need to give them things. I mean, obviously, the people with the basketball program are getting everything. They're getting to sit with the coach and fly on the plane. I think that's kind of where some of these other revenue sports are, because we don't know what all is going to eventually happen with this Protect College Sports bill, whether it's going to go through or not. A lot of people now, the other side is fighting it. It's I don't know what's going to happen there. I really don't. In fact, I'm looking forward, because one of the questions, Andy Staples is my 4 questions for my Main Street Daily News column, and one of the questions was, will that bill pass? And I'm curious to see what his answer is, because Andy's great and he knows what's going on. But really interesting stuff, and I think this is going to be the way a lot of things go around here, where you're going to get access to things, if you are willing to come up with the money. Paid access. Look, we're already doing paid interviews. That's been going on for a long time, where you get people on your podcast and pay them. I don't have to do that. We know what's going on with Pat McAfee and all the great guests he has, because he's paying them. But I'm not gonna get to that point. I don't have the money to pay you, so that's going to be a problem. All right, now let's get to number 5 on our Money Metals starting 5, and that is that I'm curious, Gator fans, whether you care, you may not care, but Tony Romo, is he done at CBS? Now, you're flipping around TV and you end up on a channel, and somehow it ended up on Entertainment Tonight, and they teased me with a Tony Romo thing, so I waited for it, and they showed his, maybe you've already seen it, but they showed his arrest and trying to walk the line, which he did not do well, refusing to take a breath test, which I think most lawyers tell you to do, but it never works out because you're going to jail. But anyway. Now J.J. Watt has moved into his spot. Ross Tucker has moved into J.J. Watt's spot, and CBS is they're scrambling in a way that makes you feel like this may be a year-long process. And Tony Romo, who's got this incredible financial deal with them, it's like $38 million or something. I'm not saying per year, but over the life of his contract, who knows what's going to happen there. I'm not a big Tony Romo fan. I think he does good things sometimes. I think he gets in the way of the broadcast sometimes, but I don't dislike him. I dislike him because he's a Cowboy, but that's neither here nor there. We'll see what happens with this, but I don't think this story is anywhere near to being over. We'll see. We'll see. That is our Money Metals starting 5. We appreciate Money Metals so much for being a sponsor of our starting 5, and all of our great sponsors, advertisers, whatever you want to call them. They're great people, and they have really helped us out, and we appreciate them sticking with us through the dog days of summer. Like I have said this before, we have openings for a couple of other advertisers. If you want to get on board, if you're a national company especially, we'd love to get you on board, because we are a national product, over 2 million downloads last year or views. And just email me at patrickdooley54@gmail.com. And I'm not going to mention it again. I know I said I wasn't going to mention it again, but I would like to get at least one more advertiser on here, because just to have some more fun things to do, and more than anything. But anyway, we'll take a break. When we come back, the great Chris Doering will join us, and he is great. He was great as a player, and he is great as a broadcaster. We all know that. We'll play Yes, No, Way, or Maybe with him, among other things we'll do. We look forward to it. Take a break right now, though. This is another Duly Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging and coming to you from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studio. You know, with a new football coach in town, everybody's talking about what it will take to build a winning program. Well, here's one thing we know. It takes more than just great offense. You need disciplined offense, a defense, a special teams. Miss one of those and you're probably not going to have the season you hope for. Same thing is true when it comes to losing weight and improving your health. At BMI TeleMed, we call it the three-legged stool. The first leg is a GLP-1 medication when it's appropriate. It's a powerful tool, but it's only part of the game. Second leg is your medical team providing individualized coaching on nutrition, strength, training, sleep, and healthy habits. And the third, and maybe the most important, is you. Your commitment, your consistency, your willingness to stay with the game plan. With these three pieces working together, that's what success looks like. Not just losing weight, but improving your health and keeping the weight off. Kick off your weight loss by calling BMI TeleMed at 727-383-1677 to schedule a free consultation.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the hippie attorney. And although times have changed, two things haven't. Our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured.
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
And our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Okay, welcome back to another Duly Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging, coming to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. It is a great honor, as always, to bring in my good friend Chris Doering. You know him from the SEC Network. You may know him from catching a few passes at Florida. And you may know him from watching the series that they've been doing with the first-year coaches. And Chris, how are you today on this beautiful Thursday?
Patrick, good morning, man. Good to be back with you. And yeah, I think the people that remember me from catching passes is getting slimmer and slimmer here as we age, man. It's disappointing, bro.
Yeah, they were like, really? Now they're going back and they're going, you mean that skinny white guy?
Yeah. It's funny, man. I weighed in at the gym today. I was like 211, which I wish I had this size when I was playing. You know, my first year at Florida, the first year I was playing, the year I caught the pass against Kentucky, I was same height I am right now, but 175, man. I don't even know how I was playing in the SEC at that weight. Finished up at about 193 at Florida, then played in the NFL at about 205. But man, if I had the knowledge that I have now, the size that I have now, and that youthful energy that I used to have, man, it'd be a deadly combo.
Yeah, see, you're going one way, I'm going the other way. I'm trying to get down, and you're going up. And
my metabolism's finally slowing down, Pat. I remember at Florida, they prescribed me this medicine that the side effect was that it made you ravenously hungry, and the other bad part about it made you sleepy. So, I was never awake enough to actually eat what I needed to with the medicine. I had to get off of that, but it just forever could not really get the calories that I needed to do just because of the metabolism and the amount of running we did as a receiver.
Were they giving you gummies or what?
No, man, they didn't have any of that. I was actually down in Columbia, South Carolina the other day for their practice when I was up in Charlotte for TV. And man, after practice, Coach Beamer invited me to have lunch with them. The training table that they have now, man, I wish I had access to that kind of food. And again, the knowledge that I have now in terms of nutrition, because I would have been a much better player and certainly more physically imposing than I was at that time.
All right, let's say you're at 211, your senior season, this Chris Doering, now without the knees and stuff, but do you think you could have been a better player? I
think I could have been a better player for sure. I think the training has come a long way. I think the recovery more than anything is like, I tell my son who's 22 right now, if I were you, I would be eating, lifting, and sleeping as much as you could. You'll never have that much testosterone running through your body. And so I think I missed a window of, sleeping a little bit more and being better about recovery, the cold tub, getting in the sauna the way that they do now and certain meals right after you train or practice. So you can't, it's revisionary history, I guess, at this point, trying to think about what you know now versus what you know then. But I do miss, I wish to some degree I would have had the opportunity to play today because of the advancement in the education and nutritional information that's available, but also the NIL stuff. And by the way, the proliferation of the passing game. We were at Florida doing something way ahead of what everybody else was doing. But you look in the NFL now, guys are going 3 and 4 wide receivers on first and second down. You're throwing the ball a lot more. So as a third or fourth receiver, which I was the majority of my NFL career, I was only playing on third down and 2-minute situations. But these guys now have an opportunity to put up big numbers and ultimately make much bigger contracts because of the value of a good third or fourth receiver.
Yeah, I was going to talk to you about that. Like, I'm thinking about doing this and ranking Florida's wide receiving classes. The reason I would do it is that I think this year's class, the group they've got now, has a chance to be in that pantheon of like Ike Riddell, Kwesi, you, Jack Jackson, Aubrey Hill. I mean, what any of those threesomes that you can use when you go Vernell and Dallas and Eric Singleton, who has been everybody's been raving about in camp as well. I mean, I think they could have a chance to be there. Now, again, they don't have Danny Werfel throwing the ball either.
Yeah. It's funny. I was on with Buddy Martin the other night, and I took a little offense to the introduction as we started talking about receivers. He mentioned the 96 class. Which, very, very good. But, our 95 class, it was me, Ike, Riedel, Quez, and Travis as our top 5 when we went empty. And, I think I want to say 4 of us ended up getting All-American honors and, first or second team. So that was great. But it was, that was the rotation at Florida. I get there in 91. It's Alonzo Sullivan. It's Trey Everett. Willie Jackson has a breakout year. Harrison Houston's a great player. Aubrey, starts getting a little bit more playing time in 92. Jack Jackson kind of emerges that year. Every year it was, hey, you may lose a guy, but you're going to add another guy into the rotation that's going to be just as good. And I think that was the beauty of what we did. The system, everybody talks about us, Florida quarterbacks and receivers being products of the system under Coach Spurrier, but the system doesn't run without the players in the right position. So I think it was a unique combination of having really special players in a really special offense at a very unique time in the transformation of how offense was played in the SEC.
Yeah, it totally changed it. And eventually they quit covering Ike Hillier with a strong safety.
But that was the thing. It's like, there wasn't a whole lot of substituted packages defensively. So, you did get opportunities to match against linebackers. Auburn was one of the first teams that actually, went nickel or dime against us in 94. But it was one of those things. Even if you did substitute and try to match with a dime package, you're still talking about somebody's 5th best cover guy against one of our top 5, and there was a mismatch on the field inevitably. But honestly, Coach didn't really teach to look for the mismatch. It was more about what the defense was doing strategically and knowing where to go with the football based upon the coverage that was being presented to you. And that was what was tough in the Nebraska game, the dawn of the zone blitz. They're showing that they're not blitzing, they're overloading protection, playing zone behind it, and so it was confusing. And that's why we struggled so bad in that game offensively. It's just the picture that Danny was used to seeing was much different than what the offense was based and taught for him to be looking at.
Yeah, that's the trouble with that much time between games, because you could
the story. You know the story about that, right, Pat? I mean, supposedly it was Monty Kiffin, the former Tampa Bay Bucs, the Tampa 2 originator. He had been at Nebraska at some point in his career, was good friends with a lot of the Nebraska coaches. They spent a lot of time, I guess, with Monty Kiffin learning the zone blitz package that they ran against us. And you're right, a month to prepare, install, show something that we had never seen before. It was a difficult, not only assignment for the guys blocking up front, but from Danny knowing, when to check, when to get into something different. That's why we ultimately had multiple sacks. I think a safety down there in the second quarter. That second quarter was just disastrous, as you remember, in terms of things snowballing out of control.
I think they got 29 on you in that quarter, didn't they?
We were winning at the end of I want to say it was 10-6 at the end of the first quarter. And you remember at the beginning of the second quarter, right before things got out of control, it was Quez, on that kickoff return, getting hurt, and we're sitting in the huddle like 5 feet away from him, watching him writhe in pain for 20 minutes as they're trying to get his hip back in socket. So it was a lot of different things, and I have that probably one of my biggest regrets is just of all the story tale occurrences in my career and that time in Florida, just to end it that way was just not the apropos finish that I had imagined.
Well, I think that's one reason people refer to that Nebraska team as the best to ever play the game.
I agree. I think it is actually, Pat. I mean, you can name some of those Miami teams. There's other really good teams, but that Nebraska team, not only in terms of what they did, but it was first string, second string, third string guys. They didn't lose size or strength on the defensive line. Their offensive line was massive. Their speed, combination of speed and skill and that strength, it was just they had waves and waves of players that were the same. And that, again, that was an age where you could stockpile a lot of talent, unlike what today brings with the NIL and transfer portal opportunities.
I remember when we had media day and you guys came out, and then the Nebraska players came out, and that's our first look at them. And Robbie looks at me and goes, "Stampede." I go, it may be. They had brought all their weight equipment out there too.
Yeah, it was not only the size differential. You remember what the fan attendance looked like. I mean, we come out and it's like 75, 80% red and white. It was a surprise there too. But I think it's part of the learning process. And you go back and remember this, Pat. Like, the first time we go to the Sugar Bowl in a long time, we played Notre Dame. That's like, I don't even think ranked at that point. Florida fans are like, why are we playing these guys? And we just got boat raced because of the way we handled, Bourbon Street that week. And then, we figured out, we come back there in 93 and beat the hell out of West Virginia. I think we scored 41 unanswered after they scored first. And, the first time we go to the SEC championship game, we lose. And then after that, Florida runs off a string of like 4 or 5 wins there. So you kind of figure that out. The loss in the national championship game caused some retooling, including, ultimately coming back with a shotgun the next year in the national championship game. And you find a way to win. So I think that's part of the natural growth process, right? You got to fail sometimes to move forward. And I thought that was what was really unique about what we did at Florida during that. It wasn't perfect, but I thought we did a good job of learning the coaches, players. We all kind of learned from the mistakes and got better from it.
I want to talk to you about the thing you and Peter have done, and that is getting all these first-year coaches together, or not together, but going to them and doing interviews with them. I did like the Silverfield interview, although I did text you and say, is that artificial turf?
It was artificial turf. And Pat, I think you'll probably agree with me here. Of all the new coaches, we got 6 coaches that are at new schools this year in the SEC. I probably knew the least about Ryan Silverfield, but that was what was great about these interviews. What we wanted to do was get to know these folks as people. We know about who they are as coaches sometimes, but getting away from the facility, getting to know them at their home with their families. We played pickleball with Will Stein and his wife Darby. I mean, it was such a cool experience for us. And when you go into an interview truly curious about something, you can ask questions, I think, that allow you to learn valuable information. And I said, Coach Silver, like, I don't know who you are. There's a lot of things I have no idea about. Did you know he's from Jacksonville? Did you know he went to Jacksonville Bulls?
I did not know that, yeah.
He was a big Gator fan growing up, in fact. I mean, I think that was what was fun for me. And it's a double-edged sword. When I hear these coaches now say, man, I loved watching you at Florida when I was a kid. It's great. It's a great compliment, but it's also humbling to think about, man, I'm this old that these coaches were kids when they were watching me at Florida. But he was a big fan of Coach Spurrier's. He had his senior year cut short because of a permanent injury. He moved into being a student assistant, knowing that was going to be his path to having a career in football. Went up to Savannah as a coach at a small school up there. I think they went 0-11 while he was painting the field and washing uniforms. I mean, this guy's love of the game of football is evident with everywhere he's coached along the way. And it's a tough job. I don't think Arkansas should be as tough as it is. When you got Tyson Chicken money, when you got Walmart money, I mean, they got money there. I don't know why they don't have the better NIL opportunity than what they do. But it's a unique job, has its unique pluses. They're the only kind of big school there in the state of Arkansas, and keeping those recruits in the state is important. But at the same time, they're not able to put the rosters together that you're seeing at the top of the league. Shoot, Florida has a hard time competing with some of the money that exists in Texas and Texas A&M. But it's a new world right now in college athletics in general, but college football specifically, with the way that NIL and transfer portal stuff has changed the roster construction process.
Yeah, and I get mad when people go, "Why are we doing polls with the portal and everything?" And I'm like, well, how are they hurting anything? I mean, I'd rather see a game between number 3 and number 5 between two teams that you say are not ranked because we don't have polls anymore. I have no problem with polls. I have problems with watch lists, but I don't have a problem with polls.
I have a big problem with watch lists for sure. But also, you're right. I mean, as long as we take it for what it is, hey, this is what we project these teams to be. I mean, I think now more than ever, the projections that we have for teams and players. I mean, I'll go back. I looked at my top 5 quarterback list heading into last season. Lenora Sellers, DJ Lagway. I mean, some of these guys, Austin Simmons. Like it's crazy to think about what we think is going to happen versus what ultimately does happen. And I give you a lot of credit. I use your line a lot, and I know this was one that I used to read about in your column, was like college football every year is a unique year in and of itself. And now more than ever, it's true with the roster turnover and the way things change from year to year. But I do think there's, like, as human beings, we want to quantify things and try to define it. So, like, having the rankings is cool. I'm fine with the way the system is now because we don't get the real rankings that matter, the college football playoff rankings, until we get like 2/3 of the way through the season. So as long as the preseason rankings don't have any input on what happens later on, I'm completely fine with just coming up with it just as talking points for what you and I do at this time of year.
Yeah, let me ask you about your take so far on John Sumrall. Obviously, everything he's doing seems to be right. But he's got it's like Danny Werfel said, and I did a Q&A with him. I did one with you too for the Main Street Daily News. And Danny says, we got to win. That's all I care about. We got to win games.
And that's all he cares about. Coach Sumrall has been very adamant about, hey, this is all great right now, but it comes down to us winning football games. I think he's done a great job in a couple different ways in the offseason. One, making himself available. He's done every single interview, every single podcast, been at every single event, has really pressed the flesh and gotten to know the Florida fan base, and the Florida fan base has gotten to know him. And I think he's got an authenticity that resonates with the Florida fan base. Like the amount of times that we heard people talk about Coach Napier and the lack of energy on the sideline, that's not going to be a problem with Coach Sumrall. So I think that's one of the things that I'm really excited about. The other thing I thought he really did a good job of was the coaching staff build out. If you look, Buster Faulkner had been at Georgia, so he knows the SEC, Georgia Tech recently. He's an up-and-coming young offensive mind that's doing a lot of really creative things. Defensively, you go out and get Brad White, who is a veteran defensive coordinator in this league. You add a couple Gators, Bam Hardman and Phil Troutwine, so they understand what it's like to wear the uniform and can speak to that from a firsthand perspective. I think with the previous staff, and I'm not trying to speak disparagingly, but quantity doesn't always equal quantity. And there was a ton of people. You're like, who the hell is this guy? You look at the whole team picture, and there's almost as many staff members as there are players. But what were the resumes like? And I think sometimes more is actually less. And I think they've done a good job of surrounding Coach Sumrall with the right people that complement one another. And that's like when you talk about a team, that's what you want. And I think when you talk about a coaching staff, it's also something that's very valuable.
Did you hear what Zach Pillar's nickname is for Billy Napier?
No, I try to block out some of what Pillar says, but no.
Well, I had him on the podcast, and he called him All Shucks Billy, and I'm like, that's a perfect nickname for him because, the lack of energy on the sideline was there, and the lack of getting things right was not there. 11 guys on the field, stuff like that, and that was just drive you crazy.
Pat, you can speak to this having been around during the rise of our program in the 90s. You take on the persona of your coach. Like having Coach Spurrier on the sideline, it infused us with confidence, knowing that we had him on the sideline, knowing that we were going to act as arrogant as a lot of people thought Coach was, with the way he interacted. And to some degree, you are what you emphasize. And I think, the lack of real you got to be somewhat even keeled as a coach, but you also have to have some fire to you for sure. And I think, Florida played kind of the way that Coach Napier acted. And I think the other thing is, like, you have to emphasize attention to detail. When over and over again, you're getting these silly penalties, substitution. Like, I remember that Kentucky game, I think we had 13 players on the field and they still scored down around the goal line. Like, the double number thing, like, it's inexcusable, particularly as deep into his tenure as he had here. And I think that's one thing you'll see cleaned up is being much more attention to detail oriented under Coach Sumrall.
Yeah, I like everything that he's had to say so far. Chris Doering, of course, coming to you on the Big Mills Cheesesteaks Zoom line. It is time for us to play the game we love to play, Yes, No, Way, or Maybe, with Chris Doering. It is brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteak. If you go by there and say, hey, I listened to Chris Doering on the Dooley podcast, free French fries with your order. Or no, can you eat French fries? Is that okay?
I wouldn't make it a daily thing, but as a one-off, I'll have some French fries from now and then. I had some breakfast potatoes this morning on the way home from my workout.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same thing. All right. 3 questions for Chris. Yes, no, way, or maybe, but you can expound on the answers. Number 1, Allie Peak Wilbur is the next great Gator media member.
Oh, I got to say yes. I mean, I love Allie, and a lot of people can talk about, being able to take advantage of her husband's playing career, but she's done this all on her own. And I think, seeing her at media days down in Tampa and the amount of time that she puts into the craft, I respect people that understand the grind. And I talk about my television career, like my contract, I get paid for 45 days on air at ESPN. But it's not the 45 days that I really get paid for. It's the preparation on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And you can tell, Allie puts a lot of time into her preparation and, being ready to go when the lights come on, when she's, either on her show or a guest on someone else's show.
No, she does great. She's been on our show a couple times, and we'll get her on again. But she's, I just felt like there's a lot of momentum going towards her, and that's good. I love to see it. I mean, I love to see it with everybody that I've ever had on, or like the Sarah Cardonas and people like that I worked with on that old Gainesville Game Day show, believe it or not.
You know what I hate, though? And it inevitably, you're going to look in the comments and there's going to be some idiotic man that comments about, what do you know? You're a female. Like, what do you know? You haven't played at any high level either. So I hope we're getting to a point where we don't necessarily define somebody's ability to talk about a sport based upon their sex or their background or anything else. So Allie's a great, she obviously comes from a great Gator family and was brought up around the sport and can talk about it. I love, maybe it's my own bias, but I love the people that can talk about the history of Florida, that know the history of Florida football and can speak to it and have a little bit more perspective than maybe some of the newer Gator fans do at times.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. All right, number 2 on yes, no, way, or maybe. You are aware that you have 170 more receiving yards than Chris Collingsworth, your hero.
I did not know that. I think, in being fair, so I'll say no, I was not aware of that. But I think the important thing to do now, if we're really going to compare statistics, and you never really compare apples to apples when you're talking about, different generations of players because of the way that, offensive football is played or defensive football or personnel or rule changes. But I think you go back and you have to look at yards per game, touchdowns per game, because, he probably played less games than what I did. The players now are playing 12-game regular seasons, and one of the things that I think is a crime, if we're really being honest and transparent, why don't they count our postseason games, but they'll count these guys? It's not like you can't go back and look up bowl game stats, right?
I am totally on board with that, and I have screamed it and I finally just died on the hill. Because I literally would go, you guys all know they go, well, not every school's got good records and all this. Like, well, then the schools that don't have good records just don't count their postseason game. That's their problem.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know why it's so difficult, but not that it matters, but I do think in comparing, we have to look at things per game to make it a little bit more apples to apples.
Yeah, well, Chris Collinsworth started as a quarterback, and then I was at the game on the field when he was playing against FSU, and he was playing safety.
Oh,
that did not go well. I can just tell you that.
Was he playing receiver and safety in that game?
No, just safety. They wanted to get him on the field some way, and they didn't know where to put him. And they finally, the next year, put him at quarterback, and at wide receiver. And
Does he still have the record? Was it 99 yards against Rice that he threw the touchdown? Still, obviously, the longest touchdown in Florida football history.
Well, it can't be any longer.
Yeah.
But
was it 99 though?
99, yeah. And it was Derek Gaffney, and Chris will tell you he threw the ball 99 yards, but it was like a 20-yard out, and then Derek Gaffney ran. But I'll give him the benefit of the doubt because he's a good dude.
Yes, definitely.
All right, and finally, number 3, you are on board with the all blue uniforms, including the helmets.
All blue. I haven't seen the all blue yet. Is that what do we know?
They're apparently going to bring them out this year. Yeah.
You know what I didn't necessarily like? I saw the announcement about the blue helmets, orange jerseys, and blue pants. Did you see that? I think it was yesterday. That's not a great look to me. And I think Coach Spurrier's always said it best. Like, why are we going back to the orange jerseys when that was one of the eras of Florida football that wasn't necessary? Now, the 80s were amazing. That was my childhood. And those guys don't get the credit that they deserve. Like I still, when I'm in a room with Kerwin Bell or Ricky Nattiel or Neil Anderson, like those players were my idols growing up. And I'm still in awe of being around Louis Oliver. Like that was a great era that I think deserves to be more celebrated than what they are. But going back to I love the throwbacks, the Spurrier era. You were probably watching as a at that point.
I was at the Auburn game in '66, so I do know that. I remember my first game. Larry Libator was a quarterback, 1962.
Yeah.
That's I was 8 years old.
So the blue helmets, the white throwbacks, I imagine we're going to wear those at home. But do you? When's the last time Florida wore white jerseys at home? Do you know?
I don't think they ever have. I know. I think they did when Spurrier was here. I think that they wore white jerseys then, and then it eventually morphed into the orange, and then obviously Coach changed it and put them all in blue. So
he was wearing blue, right, in the kick against Auburn, right? Was it the blue?
I think he was wearing white. I can go look that up, but I remember the white jerseys, and I think that's why they went to that throwback jersey. But my thing is, and I talked about this earlier on the show, Chris, and I think you'll agree with me on this. I don't care what kind of jersey you're wearing. I don't care what color it is. Just don't wear the stupid alligator ones that they wore against the Texas A&M game. Other than that, don't worry. It doesn't matter. It's what you guys do in the game. Go win the game. I prefer you put on your blue jersey and your white pants and your orange helmet and go out there and win the game like you're supposed to.
Yeah, I love the classic ones, the orange helmet, blue jerseys, and white pants. But I understand the appeal of the throwbacks and the revenue that's created by selling those jerseys and stuff. But I'm with you, man. It's about the player in it. I love, obviously I'm a big Todd Golden fan. He's a friend of mine. I love the speech that he gave to the football team the other day about wanting guys that want to be Gators, whose dream it was. Like, my dream was to be a Florida Gator. It meant something more. And if you're just here because of the transactional nature of what you can make, like that you can't build a program on that. You need to have guys that obviously understand the opportunity that present themselves financially, but what it means to be a Gator. I've made far more money because I have a degree from the University of Florida than I ever did playing football. And so I am very grateful for what this university, what this fan base has done for me. And I hope these players understand the opportunity for a lifelong opportunity that presents itself, and also the responsibility that comes along with putting that uniform on, whatever uniform it is that you're using for the combination of orange and blue and white.
They may come out in pink this year. Just all pink.
I hope not. I hope not.
Before I let you go, Florida Auburn feels like a huge game, even though it's going to probably be two unranked teams. But who do you like in that game? Auburn's like now a 1.5-point favorite, I think.
Yeah, let's first go back and celebrate. I think you'll agree with me. Like, I hated the fact that the Auburn game went away from the yearly schedule. It was one of my favorite games. Going to Jordan-Hare is my favorite road stadium. We struggled with them. Everybody knows about our struggles with Florida State when I was at Florida, but we went to Auburn in '93. They beat us there on a late field goal. They came here, the Frank Sanders catch in '94. They beat us. We were able to escape after a bad start in Jordan-Hare in '95 and one kind of going away in the second half. But I think like this is the closest campus to Gainesville. Like, we should be playing Auburn every single year. There's so much great history there. As part of the series that you and I talked about earlier, got to know Alex Golesh pretty well. We fished in his little – it was supposed to be a stock pond, but we didn't catch anything. So I'm doubting that there was actually fish in there. But it was if we wouldn't have gotten Coach Summerall, I could have seen Alex Golesh here and doing really well with the way that he kind of approaches building a program. Byron Brown is a monster. For those that – every Florida fan probably saw him last year will his team to victory in that fourth quarter when South Florida walked out with a dub. But, yeah, I think it's going to be a massive game. I talked about this on the SEC Network the other night. I think Florida and Auburn are the two teams that are going to have the biggest jump in win totals from last year to this year. And that first SEC game of the season between those two teams is going to be a big launching point for the winner, whoever it may be.
Massive. And not only that, but you also have the situation where Auburn thought they were getting Summerall.
Yeah.
And Florida swooped in and ended up taking them away. And
let's give credit to Scott Strickland because pivoting when he did, like, we would have lost out to Summerall to Auburn. There's a lot of people in Oxford that, if it wasn't Pete Golding, they would have loved to have had him there because he had coached there previously as an assistant. Kentucky would have died to have Coach Summerall. Like, I think we did better than anybody else in the offseason in terms of coaching hires. And that's no disrespect to those other guys, because I do think this was a strong coaching hiring cycle in the SEC. But I think Florida got the right man, and I credit Coach Scott Strickland for pivoting when he did to make that move.
Chris, I could talk to you all day and always enjoy your stuff and I'm very proud of what you've been able to do on the SEC Network and ESPN, and just seeing you on there. You're so polished. You're so good at it. And I always go back to the days at 97X when I used to bring you on the show.
Yeah, it is. It's funny. But even before that, Pat, I was in Columbia the other day, as I talked about, and Coach Beamer was talking to the team about, the media, and, if you want to do media interviews, you can. I remember being a young player my sophomore year, and they would show the media request list. And when my name was on there, man, I thought it was the coolest thing. I wanted to go do all the interviews. And we kind of have a mutually beneficial relationship, is that you guys are looking for good quotes. You're looking for an opportunity to write a story. As a player, we're looking to get our name out there, to get known. It was such a process. You mentioned the 97X days. You go through being really bad. I go back and look at some of the interviews I did, like, wow, that was terrible. But those things help you along the way. And I really credit what I'm able to do now in media to some of the opportunities I had working with you guys on the beat back in the day when I was a player.
Well, we love you, buddy, and look forward to seeing you down the road. But have a good football season. I know you'll do great, and appreciate you for being on the show.
Yeah, I love you too, Pat. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to some sort of mid-season check-in, hopefully celebrating a lot of Florida wins by then.
Hopefully. Got a chance. Just saying there's a chance, not saying.
That's right.
All right, we will be back with more of another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging, coming to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studios right after this break.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Give me 60 seconds and I'll show you why you should be buying silver and how to get started. Recent price spikes in groceries, healthcare, gasoline, steel, and lumber tell the story of inflation, as do raging bull markets in equities and housing. As the reality of all this inflation sinks in, investors will be acting quickly to diversify and protect themselves, their families, and their assets. That's why we're offering our Silver Starter Kit to help you get started in holding tangible wealth. This mix of our most recommended forms of silver includes 9 silver coins, totaling 4 troy ounces of fine silver. These pure silver coins have a low bid-ask spread, the difference between the price you pay to buy and the price you receive to sell. Low transaction costs are one reason Investopedia calls Money Metals the best dealer in America. Don't waste any more time. Start protecting your savings today with physical precious metals at moneymetals.com/go.
Okay, welcome back to another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging, coming to you from the Meldon Law Dooley Gator Studios. So great to have Chris on, one of my favorite players to ever play at Florida, certainly one of my favorite media people currently, and just he's doing really well, and I love that about him, and we'll always have that kinship of being in that dingy studio at 97X Sunday night for an hour-long show, and I'd get him in there, and I say, "Yeah, this will help you down the road, and maybe." I mean, he was good. He was actually pretty good at the time already, but now he's really good. All right, it is time for us to get to our third segment where we do a lot of fun stuff here, and we'll start out with our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Hesser and Kipke, with over 50 years of combined legal experience in North and Central Florida, Hesser and Kipke is your place for bankruptcy, workers' compensation, and family law. Call or text Ken and Jennifer at 352-339-9920, Hesser and Kipke. Okay, well, number one, our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. This Jaden Daniels thing is so bizarre to me. And again, this goes back to the retiring jerseys, and Florida's never retired jerseys. They retired one, Neil Walks, and then Michael Kerr ended up wearing it in a game, and they realized it was supposed to be in a trophy case in basketball. Nobody, and in football, they retired Brantley's number, and they retired, obviously, Spurs, and they brought him back out because he didn't believe in retiring jerseys. And I get that. At LSU, they do retire jerseys. Joe Burrows has his retired, and Jaden Daniels had his not retired yet. But there was a promise that nobody would wear it. Actually, I don't think Joe Burrows was actually retired. I think they just wouldn't let anybody else wear it. So now Jaden Daniels, they've given his number to his number 5 to a defensive back named DJ Pickett, and apparently he was promised he could have it last year, but then they started thinking about it. Brian Kelly said, I'm not giving you the number that our Heisman Trophy winner had. No, I'm not going to do that. And then Lane Kiffin comes in and goes, no, I will do that. And now Jaden Daniels is sending his attorneys has filed a cease and desist order for using his name or likeness with anything at LSU. Wow. Lane Kiffin off to a great start, ticking people off in his own community. He's good at that. All right, let's get to number 2 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things, and that is the retirement of Russell Westbrook, which is an interesting. I mean, he's been playing 19 years. He's the all-time leader in triple doubles. That record may never go away. Not a great shooter, but would take all the shots he could possibly take. I was never a big fan of his. Because I just didn't think he was a very good shooter for a guard. But I went back many times. I've done this multiple times and looked at the Florida UCLA game from that year, and Westbrook did play, and he didn't do anything in that game. And so you got to look at that and then go, man, but the guy had a great NBA career. Bottom line is he had a great career, and he was around some great players, and he's one of the greatest of all time. But I wouldn't put him in the top 40 NBA players of all time. I wouldn't personally, but anyway, he is retired. We'll see if that holds. And then number 3 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 thing, the Lakers Speaking of Lakers, were sold for $12 billion to Jared Kushner's brother and Bob Iger, the former head of Disney. $12 billion. And the guy who sold it only had it for a year and made $2 billion. Two and a half, I think, $billion on the sale. Man, people are dealing with, it's like they're dealing with monopoly money, but it's not. And it's just amazing. But if you can do it, do it. And there's a lot of questions about whether they'll sell the Dodgers now. I don't. When you start talking about that kind of money, you're out of my league. I don't even know how to respond to it. All right, that's our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Let's get to our Adams Ribco Gators of the week, and that's brought to you by our friends at Adams Rib Company. They will give you the best barbecue. And tomorrow, I'm sorry, Friday, Nana's Nuggets are available. Make sure you go there and get them. Tell them Pat Dooley sent you. But here's what we're giving. We're giving it to University of Florida baseball, and here's why. They have all of a sudden come up with this, and maybe it's been there and I never saw it before, and this is pretty good. They're calling it MLBU, and it is, because no team since 2008 in college baseball has put as many players into the Major League Baseball as Florida. And I think it's 28 is the number now. Sully has done a masterful job on all that and getting guys to the pros. Now, you could make it a Calipari comparison. He gets guys to the major leagues, but only has won one natty, same as Calipari. But Kentucky fans were happy with him until they weren't, and then they weren't, But Calipari, I'm talking about. But Sully's done a great job. Also, I think it's important to notice, so I'm going to give this award to Peter Alonso and Jack Caglione. 47 combined homers going into today's games. That's pretty cool. And they're both mashing the ball, no question about it. Unfortunately, Alonso went to the wrong team, and actually Cags kind of did too. But hey, they are our Gators of the week. And if they want to go to lunch, there's a standing offer. All right. Let's move along to our Leonardo's of Millhopper Quick Pick. Todd Kissauer, I apologize. We've had some miscommunication with my people that drive me around now. But we will get that $25 at Leonardo's of Millhopper, plus a copy of my book signed by me. I will get that. My daughter is going to drive me to the mail thing today, and I'll get that to you. So you should get it in a couple of days. All right. We're giving you 2 chances to qualify here with NFL football preseason games. Jags at Saints, Rams at Chiefs. Those are both Saturday games. So you have time to get in. Jags at Saints, Rams at Chiefs. I made this point in my Main Street article last week. It's kind of weird that the NFL is a Sunday league, right? There's no Sunday games this week, but there's Thursday, Friday, Saturday games. Anyway, so those are the 2 games. Just send them to me. Just say Jags and Chiefs or whatever you want to say. Send it to patrickdooley54@gmail.com, and you can qualify for our next drawing. We got a lot of people in for this last one. All right, let's move along to our BMI TeleMed Smart Move of the Week. It is brought to you by our friends at BMI TeleMed. Work for me, it'll work for you. It'll get your weight off, and if you mention our podcast, you get a discount on your order. Our smart move of the week is changing the targeting rule, which went through yesterday, is official now, that the first time you get called for targeting, you don't have to sit out the next game. And I think that's a good rule because, you can get called for targeting on the second play, and it could be controversial, and you have to miss the next game too. It's always seemed too punitive, but now I'm worried that now guys are going to target. But I don't think anybody wants to get. Nobody's thinking about I'm going to have to miss the next game. They're going to think I have to miss this game now. I have to come out more than anything. The first time you do it, you don't have to miss the next game. The second time, you have to miss a half of the next game, and the third time you do, you have to miss the whole game. So they're keeping it. So if you're a habitual targeter, you're still going to get punished. But that is our BMI TeleMed Smart Move of the Week. It is time for us to get to one of our favorite things, and that is this, that, and the other.
What do you want? This, that, and the other.
Okay, this, that, and the other, as always, is sponsored by our good friends at Shakow Insurance for all your home, auto, commercial, and life needs, and by the Atlanta Hustle, the Southeast ultimate Frisbee champions. Not this year. They've been good in the past, though. They had a rough year this year. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. We appreciate Leonardo Law for being the sponsor of that, and they do a great job. It's a place to go if you want a closing. All right, this, that, and the other. This is that when the Tarek Skubal thing came down, immediately my first reaction was, well, I didn't think we were going to win it all, but now I know we're not going to win it all because we just can't compete with the Dodgers' money and blah, blah, blah. And I think everybody felt that way. I wasn't just Braves fans, it was all fans. And that's why there was so much, again, I said, don't hate the game, hate the play, don't hate the player, hate the game, hate the rules that are set up. So they were done. And they didn't get anybody. That's the problem. They didn't go out and get another guy, Casey Mize or somebody else that was going to be a second starter because they only have one starter. Well, they got this guy named Tyler Mali, I should say. I looked up how to pronounce it. It's Mali. Anyway, I looked it up and I still can't do it. Anyway, he has really pitched well. Two starts, giving up one run in 2 games, and he keeps winning. And I went back and started looking at things, and I go, oh, he got hurt. That's why he was pitching so bad. When he came back, he was pretty good for the Giants, a bad team. And so maybe I was too quick to dismiss him. Well, the other is this. The Braves actually have a bigger lead in their division than the Dodgers do in theirs. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. They have the same record. The Braves have won 18-28, but their lead is 8.5, and the Braves are now up to 9.5 because Phillies lost last night, and Tyler Mali was able to pitch another great game, and they won. So hey, I think we got a shot. That is this, that, and the other. We got a special Mark guy that presents at 12 today because I wanted to use this when I read it, and I didn't want to wait till Monday, but it is the first ever AP poll. So we're going to give you the top 12. He presents at 12, and we appreciate him from Boss Hart Realty. He does a great job for them, and we always like to stick extra ones in here. This is the first ever AP poll in 1936. Number 1 was Minnesota. Guess what? Minnesota won the Natty that year. So I don't know. This poll may have come out actually after the season. So Duke was 2. You'll not see the names you normally see here. Army was 3, Northwestern 4, Purdue 5, USC 6. So there was USC's been good for a long time. Notre Dame 7, Washington 8, Pitt was at number 9, Yale at 10, Duquesne at number 11, and Duquesne's still playing football. They're playing at FCS level, and then St. Mary's was number 12. St. Mary's gave up football in 2004, varsity football. So anyway, I just thought that was a fun list to do, and we appreciate Mark Gaida. Let's move along to our Gallo Car Wash Sponge of the Week, brought to you by our friends at Gallo Car Wash. They do a great job there, and that's where we get all of our cars washed, although one of them had a flat tire today, so I don't know. Maybe we have to get it washed right away. Our Sponge of the week, is Florida State University, who is retiring Sebastian Janikowski's jersey. Now, Sebastian Janikowski was in trouble a lot. Again, that was Bobby Bowden would say, we're on the Poland rules, or whatever he used to say. They're going to retire his jersey. And again, this gets back to the thing. Look, he was a great kicker. One of the best ever. But I'm never going to give up him doing the Gator chomp in the game they ended up losing. And I want his jersey retired for that reason, because he helped Florida win that game. That's the way I'm going to always look at it. But anyway, he is our Florida State is our Gallo Car Wash Sponge of the Week, because they want to retire a jersey of a kicker who was really good, but, I don't know. Any kicker should have his jersey retired. But don't tell Jed Davis I said that. All right. That's our Gallo Car Wash Sponge of the Week. Let us wrap it up, as we always do, with our Swamp Games of the Weekend. We got a lot to cover here. The Swamp Games of the Weekend brought to you by the Swamp Restaurant, where you can go and watch just about any of these games. You'll have great opportunities to watch them. Great food specials, great drink specials at the Swamp Restaurant. Start off with soccer is tonight at 7 o'clock against UCF. That is on ESPN Plus. If you want to watch Florida start its soccer season. NFL Thursday, Green Bay at Pittsburgh is on the NFL Network. Most of these are on the NFL Network. That's at 7, and then Tennessee at San Francisco at 10 on the NFL Network. If you want to watch some of these other games that are being played tonight, eventually they'll be on the NFL Network. You just got to, they'll be tape delayed. Then we have on Friday, Tampa Bay at the Jets, 7 o'clock on the NFL Network. On Saturday, Cleveland at Chicago at 1 o'clock on the NFL Network. Rams at Chiefs, 4 o'clock on the NFL Network. Dallas at Seattle, 8 o'clock on the NFL Network. Also, you have the Jags at the Saints. That is on at Channel 20 at 4 o'clock. So if you want to watch that game, a lot of chances to watch football. I know it's exhibition games, but it's still something to watch. It's football to watch. The St. Jude Classic, of course, the start of the FedEx Cup, was actually on this morning from 10 to 12 on ESPN, but it'll be on the Golf Channel from 2 to 6, and then CBS 3 to 6 on Saturday and 2 to 6 on Sunday if you want to watch that. And volleyball is not on, but I want to mention that. It's not on TV, but Gator Greats against the current team. That is at 2 o'clock on Sunday if you want to go out and see that. So, all right. Thanks to Chris Doering. Thanks to Zach for doing a great job as always. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. We'll be back Monday with the HBC. Look forward to that. Until then, I am Pat Dooley. I am deep, I am way back, and I am out of here.